Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. All right, so we are in this chapter with number 3, Karma Yoga, and there are corresponding chapters from essays on the Gita, which I would suggest for you to read, that the significance of the sacrifice. This chapter is important. If you read it, you are ready for this journey, into Sanskrit language. If not, we will go through it anyhow. What to do. So we stopped here at this vision of where he gives the whole overview that the Prajapati created this world, if you remember, together with sacrifice, all the creatures, the Creator created with the sacrifice, and told them, by the sacrifice you support each other. Yeah. And here it is. It's a very interesting deviation by Krishna towards the sacrifice. Yeah? It's the first mentioning of the sacrifice. Later in the 4th chapter, he will speak again about this in a different way, in a more psychological way. Here he gives some kind of mythological overview. So together with creatures and sacrifice, the Creator created this world and said, by the sacrifice you support each other. And by this you support the gods, and the gods will support you. And thus supporting each other, you will reach to the highest good. Now there is something inbuilt here which we don't see immediately, but we will arrive at it. So the gods will give you the desired enjoyments, Ishtan Bhogan Hivodeva, Dasyante Yajna Bhavitach, and those who do not give them these gifts back, they are like thieves. But those who partake of the leftovers of the sacrifice, that means whatever was there they gave to the higher powers of consciousness, and now whatever is left to them, to their egoistic enjoyment to enjoy, for their egoistic enjoyment to enjoy, they are tasting or partaking of the amrita, of the what do you call it? Of the ambrosia, of the immortality. So those who partake of the leftovers of the sacrifice, they are actually nourishing themselves in the right way. They are becoming free from all the sins, from all the imperfections. But those who cook for themselves only, they are partaking of sin. Yeah, they are sinful one partaking of sin, enjoy sin, yeah, who cook for themselves. And then he gives this overview that from the food, the creatures came into existence. If there would be no organic matter, there would be no creatures. There would be no animals or living beings and human beings. It all comes from greenery, from Soma. Soma is the first. And where Soma is coming from, where that moisture or that water is coming from, it comes from the rain which heaven sends so to say. Where the rain is coming from the sacrifice. And this is something interesting. It looks like very ancient mythological paradigm, but it is not totally so. We will see it closer when we look into it. So from the sacrifice, the rain, and the Yajñat bhavati parjanyah, yajñah karma samudbhavah. And the sacrifice comes from the karma, from the action. And the karma comes from the Brahman. And Brahman comes from the immutable, indestructible spirit. Yeah? Aksharam. Aksharam samudbhavam. Brahmaksharam samudbhavam. Tasmat sarvagatam brahmanityam yajne pratishtitam. And therefore, Brahman, the ever-present spirit, is established in the sacrifice. Now, it's a bit confusing statement, and we have to look into Sri Aurobindo to truly understand it. So what Sri Aurobindo says is amazing, actually. And I was reading today again, just collecting these different overviews. I collected certain quotations from him. He says that the action is of three kinds. Any action. Whatever action we can do here. So what Krishna wants to us to understand is that the whole world is nothing but the enterprise of the Spirit. Everything here is done and originated in Brahman, who is originated in the imperishable. So everything comes down as a need for generation of this particular enjoyment of exchange of energy, exchange of consciousness, exchange of power. And that generates an additional bliss or ananda. And that is the purpose of this creation, yes, of many which came into being from the Spirit. So how it was done? So any action can be done in three different ways. And that's what he says here. It is true that works and sacrifice are a means of arriving at the highest good. Shreyan param avapsyatha. Or avapsyatha, most probably. You will arrive. But there are three kinds of works, and that's what he says. The first kind, that done without the sacrifice for personal enjoyment, which is entirely selfish and egoistic and misses the true law and aim and utility of life. That's how we live. Yeah, we live for ourselves. Mogham partha sajivati. He lives in vain. The one who lives only for himself, for his own self-enjoyment, without sacrifice, without living for some higher ideal, without giving himself and whatever he gains to the higher forces of life, of consciousness in himself, he lives in vain. Second level of action, that done with desire, but with sacrifice, and the enjoyment only as a result of sacrifice, that leftovers of the sacrifice. So the desire is present, but it is offered to the higher ideal. For example, to support the world, to work as a service for, I do not know. So this is for the higher powers, to do it for the Godheads, invoking different devatas and doing this for them. And that is less selfish action, though it is with desire of some kind. And therefore, to that extent, consecrated and sanctified. So it is kind of a transition from the work done totally selfishly for one's own enjoyment, egoistic enjoyments, to the work done for others in a way. It is how the gods are acting. They are always working for the other rather than for themselves. Well, at least the Vedic gods, maybe not the Puranic ones. And the rest, the highest modality of action, that done without desire or attachment of any kind, it is the last which brings the soul of man to the highest, Paramapnoti Purushah. Now, let us examine these three. Just look at them before we come to the text of the Gita. What is being said here? Just look at this paradigm. Yeah. First is the egoistic action for oneself. It is in vain we live for this. Just we partake, we are like thieves. We take the goods which are given by the cosmos. Cosmos generates all the organic matter for us, and we partake it only for our own support and our own enjoyment. We are not sharing the same force with other beings in the cosmos. We are not sharing everything what we received with the higher forces of consciousness in us, with universal forces. We are living only for ourselves. And then there is another. We have a desire, yes, still, but we do it as a sacrifice. We give our enjoyments of everything which comes to us, to the higher powers in us, or to some ideal, or work for some revolution, I do not know, or for some, equality in Europe, or feministic movement, or I do not know. So people choose their ideals and give their lives to those ideals. It's some kind of a sacrifice. And whatever is left over of that sacrifice, whatever is left for them to enjoy egoistically, that they take, but not more. They don't really live only for themselves, to feed themselves. So, and therefore, to that extent, this action is consecrated and sanctified in some way, because the person doesn't live only for himself. He lives for something he has an aim in life, something higher aim for which he lives. And he may be living egoistically with desire for that aim. And in that sense, Siegfried is totally right, that the desire is very useful. Yeah? If it is really put for the service of a higher purpose, for some higher aim, why not? It works. The person is burning with that kind of aspiration and desire to do the right thing or to achieve some higher good. Of course, it is not leading him to the final liberation and emancipation, but still, it is in a way on the way. And the highest is to do any work without any attachment and desire whatsoever. And that only brings man to the highest. Now, how come? It's quite interesting. Why this third is the highest? If you have the answer, that would be the answer to the whole third chapter.
I want to contribute with something.
Please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, for me, in this point, I can see the desire is the way you can reflect your identification. You are using the movement of the desire to know yourself. And then the problem is not what you desire. The problem is the subject is doing this activity of desire. Then in the process of desire, you are fixing your own identification. Like when you say in Sanskrit, the substantive, the substantive, sustain the action of desire. The point is not desire or the objects of the desire. The objects and the action of the desire helps to you to know in which identification you are.
Yeah, to know yourself better, to know yourself in different situations, which is not only selfish kind of survival. It is more. You invite more forces to become part of your consciousness, so to say.
Right?
Yeah, they widen the scope of your capacity, possibilities. Definitely.
Yes, but the point is, you put yourself in the center of the experience of life.
Yeah.
In that process, you can know you are egocentric, in an egocentric pose.
Yeah. Still you give we spoke about Maya the other day, and the Maya is quite interesting because it creates this sense that you may be everything, but not everything may be you. And the other poise is you maintain your own individual formation wherever you are, with whoever you identify. And that is a part of the deal. It must be there, it must be maintained. Even if you identify yourself with everyone and see yourself in everyone and everyone in yourself, still you maintain yourself. In a way, there is a very interesting proposition here of these three levels. And I must say that the middle one, though it looks like inferior to the next one, is not totally inferior. There is something there which will be useful in the future, as a fourth one, which will come later. I'm just kind of trying to discuss this matter in the sense, what is this world about? Yeah? Why the third one, the action without any desire and any attachment, is the highest and leads you straight forward to yourself, to your highest good. Why it is so? Why the world is made in such a way that works in that way? Why not the second one is the best, where you serve for the highest ideal? No, when you are doing action without any attachment and without any desire, that is the highest path. Why? How it can be, even?
Because you are detaching or rising above your ego. It is the ego where, every time you do anything without any desire or attachment, that means of any return from your action, that puts at the highest level of action, because that is action without your personal ego.
Yeah.
Ego is the main thing here. Ultimately, that's exactly what Krishna is telling to Arjuna all along, that you have to rise above your ego.
Absolutely. So when he rises above the ego, that means that there is the world as we don't know it, yeah? And it is the spiritual enterprise. When he stops egoistic reaction and action, he falls into the right perception of things. That means it was always there, and it is always there. Only one has to allow it to come forward. And that blockage was there constantly, that egoistic blockage, which was withholding us from perceiving what is already there.
So what I was going to say too is, so the second one, because there's desire, there's a desire to own, it's mine. And so you take it as mine, you take possession of it, but then you turn around and you sacrifice, you offer. So sacrificing is offer, but first you claim it as yours, because you've got to do that before you can offer. Whereas the third is just a total surrender. It was never yours to begin with. Nothing was ever mine to begin with. And you surrender all that you are from this outer egoistic. So I see it as an offering versus a surrendering.
That seems very true. What you say, Radha, of a surrendering rather than an offering at that at the ultimate level, the more fully sincere level. And it's really wonderful how Aurobindo explains in the synthesis that any offering, even an insincere offering, where our heart's not fully in it, serves. It's a progressive action altogether, and very dynamic in that way. And it ultimately just serves for our own advance. So although we might not have an egoistic will behind it, it certainly serves our higher purpose.
Right.
Question.
Yeah.
So is it superior in that sense because it's at the overmind where all possibilities are equal, everything exists without any judgment, and so therefore that position is what you're calling superior?
Right. What it tells me, and it's one thought which came today, which was unexpected in a way, is that the world itself is a spiritual doing or manifestation of the Spirit. And these are not just words. Yeah? It is exactly that. Yeah, it's true to the very core of things. And the moment we remove this claim of being the doer, notice there are 3 levels here. The first level is Krishna would be talking about doing the action without attachment to the fruit. That is getting rid of this personal, claim for the fruit, for the enjoyment. Second level would be already disclaimer of the any modality that I like this and I don't want to be that, I want to be this. You do it as a sacrifice, so to say. You free yourself from any modality of action. So you do it for the higher principle. Yeah, everything is linked or focused on this higher aim in life. So everything works for it. And the last one is a freedom from the doer, from the actor, where you are no more the doer. So here we have it. Yeah, we have this deepening of the activity, and activity must be maintained. And he is beautifully speaking about this in this chapter on the sacrifice. On the activity, why it is higher? Because the Spirit is here already in everything. But he says that this idea that you can achieve the state of non-doing, naishkarmya, yes, a calm voidness from works, is no doubt that to which the soul, the Purusha, has to attain. We have to attain to our own self-finding, to our unborn self, which is here present. But how to attain if you are constantly active? It's very difficult. For it is Prakriti which does the work. We do not know about this yet. We think that we are the doers. But actually we are the witness, and the Prakriti is doing the work. So Prakriti which does the work, and the soul has to rise above involution in the activities of the being and attain to a free serenity and poise, watching over the operations of Prakriti, but not affected by them. That, and not cessation from works, or from works of Prakriti, is what is really meant by the soul's naishkarmya. So it is not to get out of working, it is to get into the state in which you can perceive your unborn self. And you cannot get there without doing anything. It's not the way. And therefore, he says, therefore, it is an error to think that by not engaging in any kind of action, this actionless state of the soul can be attained and enjoyed. Can't be. Mere renunciation of works is not a sufficient, not even quite a proper means for salvation. Oh, here there is a surprise, because the whole sannyasa is believing that this is the way. Huh? You stop working and you will be there. No, you won't be there. Because, and he explains why it is so, because there is mind in us, because vital in us also acts, and it's also working of prakriti, and you cannot stop them easily. You can stop outer means, movements, but inwardly you will be engaged in desires. Desires are generated within, not without. The man who engages in the activities of nature is engaged in egoism, ignorance, and desire, and therefore, and this is a very beautiful passage I just selected, therefore drawn to action. On the contrary, if the intelligence draws back, then the action must cease with the cessation of the desire and the ignorance. Therefore, the giving up of life and works is a necessary part, an inevitable circumstance, and an indispensable last means of the movement to liberation. This is sannyasa, or original sannyasa, or that traditional orthodox sannyasa. This objection of the current logic, it is not expressed by Arjuna, but it is in his mind, and we can feel it. He always speaks in the same way to Arjuna. As the turn of his subsequent utterances shows, the teacher immediately anticipates this, what he thinks, and says, no, he says, such renunciation, far from being indispensable, it is not even possible. This is not possible. For none stands even for a moment not doing work. Everyone is made to do action helplessly by the modes born from Prakriti. Prakriti will do the work whether you want it or not, whatever the decision you made in your mind. So now, better to collaborate with Prakriti and find the right way to do it in order to arrive at that unborn self. It's going deeper than it looks like from the first reading. And
So
here,
this means that movement is inevitable, and that, and that we have a choice as to, the whole time that you were reading this, I saw a herd of horses, and I'm the one, I have the reins of the herd of horses, or maybe I don't. And it's like one horse goes to the front and then another horse goes to the front. Well, which one's going to go to the front? Which one's going to lead? Which is going to guide? And I'm watching as you're reading this and as you're talking about all this, the horses taking their turns because of what my thoughts are. And I'm watching who's guiding, but it has something to do with my thoughts and my internal intention as to what in me is guiding my direction, because the movement is always there. Am I on track with what's being said?
absolutely, movement is always there, whether you want it or not. Your horses in the mind will rush forward. Your horses in the vital will move. Your horses in the physical will move. And there are layers upon layers, and everywhere there is something going on. And one cannot say that you can arrive by doing nothing. It's just to fool oneself. It's just to stop the karmendriyas and be engaged with jnanendriyas in your imagination. That's all. That's the vain path. And many people fall for this. I myself was quite stagnating for quite a long time in this mind realms. And I know that doesn't work, doesn't lead you anywhere. It's not a solution. Imagination. And here, this is the beautiful passage, which just one part of one sentence. The secret is not in action as soon as one turns towards the higher truth. When we reach to the unborn self, The secret is not in action. Actually, even there, it is not. Even when you arrive at Purusha. But desireless action, both before and after it is reached. It is still staying. The desireless action is the major thing which will continue whether you are liberated or not. It will continue. It is just the framework in which desireless action can be generated. If we realize our unborn self, the desireless action will be natural to us, simply natural. We don't need anymore to have, this motivation from desire. So here I wanted to explain something very complex on the sacrifice and karma, how they are connected. He says that from Brahman karma, from karma yajna, and from yajna rain, and from the rain greenery, food, from the food beings. And this is how it is being generated. And so how come that yajna follows karma? How yajna and karma are connected? This is the question. And it's not very clear. By the way, you can't find easily the clarity for this. Why the karma is first and yajna follows, and what is this yajna? How it is related, and to whom and why? And here Sri Aurobindo speaks about this in a one sentence, longish sentence, but he covers the whole Indian philosophy in one sentence. So I will skip the first sentence and I will start with here, Akshara. So in the 8th chapter, there will be the 2 shlokas which will describe the whole vision of Indian philosophy, and the translation is here. Akshara, or that immutable Brahman, immutable self, static being, or static spirit or self, Atman, it is Akshara. Svabhava is the principle of the self, Adhyatma, operative as the original nature of the being, own way of becoming, as it were. Svabhava, bhava becoming by oneself, becoming from the point of view of one's own being. Atman is connected to the becoming. Atman projects the becoming, and that is Svabhava. Atman is the self. And this proceeds out of the self, the Akshara. Karma proceeds from that and is the creative movement, Visarga, which brings all natural beings and all changing subjective and objective shapes of being into existence. Karma brings all shapes, all forms. And it's an interesting word, karma, from root kri, which originally means to cut and to arrange. We have another root, krit, to cut. It's kind of cutting into pieces and rearranging. So karma proceeds from that and is the creative movement, visarga. Visarga means casting out. Karma casts out, which brings all natural beings and all changing subjective and objective shapes of being into existence. He uses this word shapes because he knows the etymology of root kri. Otherwise, shapes is not needed even to mention. It is really shaping the beings inwardly and outwardly, creating the distinct formations, structures which can correlate and build up the one tapestry of existence, enterprise of the spirit. All those which Charles used to say about these structures, geometrical figures born one from the other. That is karma. Karma creates those interdependent structures, all those holographic and infinite modalities, structures within structures, which become the foundation for any embodiment of subjective and objective form. The result of karma, therefore, is all this mutable becoming, the changes of nature developed out of the original self-nature, that's what is called Ksharabhava, out of Svabhava. Ksharabhava, mutable, changeable nature. Changeable becoming is out of Svabhava, from one's own becoming, which is from one's own immutable self. So self, then projection of that self into one's own particular becoming, particular nature, which becomes the foundation for Ksharabhava. And now look at this. Purusha is the soul, the divine element in the becoming. Purusha is the soul, the divine element in the becoming, not in the being. Purusha was made for the sake of becoming, Adhidaivata, by whose presence the workings of karma become a sacrifice. I know it's very complex. It's complex even for those who know these terms and these, the philosophy quite well. But this is a revelation. I must tell you, this is a revelation. Because if we understand how yajna is being generated, it is generated from the self, on one side, Atman, Svabhava, Ksharabhava. This is the lineage of karma, and parallel from the Purusha who is engaged in this manifestation, our soul with all the faculties of our seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking, feeling, this Purusha, interacting with that particular shaping of the self, creates yajna, creates the sacrifice. To the divine within. It wants to offer all these forms to the divine within, which actually is the supreme, generated all this. Adhiyajna is the secret divine who receives the sacrifice. And Sri Krishna says, Adhiyajna, it is I who is within the heart of man, within his soul. So within our psychic being, there is someone who receives the offering. The offering is received. And the offering is made by Purusha with his faculties, by our seeing, hearing, speaking, thinking. We are making the offering. The offering of what? Of all these shapes and forms and possibilities and structures and constructions to who? To the one who alone is within the heart of every creature. This is the foundation. In one sentence, and this is one sentence, the whole Indian philosophy. Very rich.
Okay, so so
I know it's a bit
yes, but
over
let's
the
try
head.
it here. So really what Sri Aurobindo is saying, or Sri Krishna, is that this becoming, these faculties of consciousness, is an offering to the divine within, because it allows that divine within to experience the world, his own manifestation, his own becoming, his own delight in multiplicity, something like that.
Absolutely. And also bring his own presence into it. Yes.
Yeah.
And invade it. All this is for habitation by the Lord. Ishavasyamidam sarvam. All this is for his habitation. And this is the way how it was arranged. That's how Purusha was sacrificed. What does it mean? The Purusha was, faculties were brought into this manifestation, into this shaped manifestation by the self, in order to take those shapes and formations and offer them to the divine within.
Now, so if we don't offer, if we take, my, and without the offering, then we are robbing the divine of the very experience of his creation. I mean, still, obviously, he's participating, but not getting the fullness. as if
That's
we
why
were
it's
to turn around and offer.
absolutely. That's why he's called thief. The thief because he's actually robbing himself of the divine. Yeah, he becomes the means of nature. He loses that connection with the divine and becomes just this biochemistry, this gray substance in the head. So he believes that he is a material being, lives for material ends, and he dies in that way. His consciousness is exhausted in that sense as a means. So he never reaches to the one who is within. So he doesn't do the sacrifice. So you see, sacrifice is not a small thing. It is something which is produced by this interaction. And the sacrifice is the law of this existence of nature. Everything exists by this constant offering of one to the other. And there is no other way to live. We can't survive without this offering. Nothing can live if it doesn't offer itself. So, but it can rob, it can grab and hold, and not offer. And that's the wrong way of doing things. That's the lower powers which do not know how to sacrifice. They do this because they want to sustain themselves. They want to survive. This idea of survival constantly brought forward is a wrong ideal. We can't but survive if we give ourselves. But to withhold and to hold to yourself and to survive, this is not a survival. This is just a destruction. Because the world is real and the divine is here. Because of that. And this is something he wants to tell him all the time. That you can't arrive at this unborn self without the world. The world is he. So if you want to arrive to your unborn self, you have to go through the world because it is him in these formations. Yeah, I will stop here and I will go to the text. If you have some questions or some thoughts, please share before I jump into the text. But now you will see all these things in the text. Here, first thing, evam pravartitam chakram nanovartayatiha yaha aghayurindriyaramo mogham partha sajivati. The one who is not rotating, anuvartayati, rotating in accordance this already rotating chakra or rolling chakra. How is it? This wheel. He who follows not here the wheel, thus set in movement. Evil is his being, sensual is his delight, in vain, O Partha, that man lives. So this constant movement of the universe is to be sustained. With desire or without desire, it must be sustained. And that's what he says to him later. I have nothing to gain from it. I have no interest or no objectives to work here. And still I must work here because if I stop, the world will stop and the manifestation will stop. So even if you don't have any, if you already realize yourself, still you must be engaged in this moving forward, set in motion world. Yeah? Or nature will make you move forward anyhow, even if you don't want to. Yastvatmarati eva syat atmatriptascha manavach atman yevacha santushtas tasya karyam navidyate. And this is an interesting thing on which Aurobindo makes very beautiful comment. The one who is constantly happy within himself, but the man whose delight is in the self, and who is satisfied with the enjoyment of the self, and in the self he is content. For him there exists no work that needs to be done. he speaks nearly about himself. The man who realized himself, who arrived at this unborn self, has no work to do, and still he will be doing it. And this is what he says: doing without attachment to any fruit of action, it is a natural state of the being who realized himself. There is nothing for him to do, and still he will be doing it. It sounds contradictory to the mind, but it is totally fine within that framework he brings forward. Naiva tasya kritena artho, na kriteneha kaschana, na chasya sarvabhuteshu kaschit artha vyapashrayaha. He has no object here to be gained by action done, or none to be gained by action undone. Because that is also a tricky thing. I will not do this and then it will happen. He has no dependence on all these existences for any object to be gained. There is nothing to gain here, only to manifest the divine. And this is the work done only for the sacrifice, for bringing more and more the divine consciousness into it, manifesting more and more the higher and deeper self into it, and making it the place for the divine to dwell. What else is there, the object? What else would you want from the world? Tasmad asaktah satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma param apnoti purushah. And this is the third level. Therefore, detached satatam karma, constantly do the karma which is to be done. The work which is to be done, you do constantly detached from any modality or result or sense of being the actor. Asaktah, the one who is detached, hyacharan karma, doing work, param apnoti purushah, the man achieves the highest good. The work will be done anyhow, with us or without us, with us resisting it or collaborating with it. On whatever side we may go with gods or with asuras, doesn't matter, the work will be done. It's only our loss or gain for us, nothing else. It's how Sri Krishna says to Sri Aurobindo in Alipur jail, if you remember in his Uttarpara speech, he said that Krishna revealed to him the secret that everyone does his work, even those who fight against him, Krishna. Even the fighting spirits against the divine are doing his work, only they are not aware of it. So the work is the secret of gaining new consciousness, whether we want it or not. So that's why it is superior. That's why he says work is better than not doing the work. Okay, I will stop here for today. Unfortunately, it was not much, but still, these are the important issues. If you have some thoughts or ideas, please share.
Yeah, I do again.
Yes.
I understand everything in pictures. So
okay.
There's just
draw.
Now there's a river. And you're speaking of this and doing and not doing. And so I find myself with a paddle in my hands and a boat. And I enter the river. And so there's work to be done. So I'm paddling the boat, but the river is carrying me in the way that it needs to go anyway. And so it looks like I don't really need to paddle. And yet I paddle. And so it's almost like the river is there for me and it's constantly flowing. And it's always going to flow, and I'm a part of it, and I have to be a part of it because I'm here in this world. So I'm here on this river, and I'm a part of this system, this river system. And so it's like a gift for me to be here, and yet it doesn't need me in order to continue. But somehow, from the things that you were reading here, I need it in order to continue.
Very nice. I like it, what you say. Yes, we need it. We need to know how to pedal without kind of reaching anywhere, and just by pedaling forward to know how to. There was a book about Castañeda and Don Juan, if you remember. And this was a funny moment when they were crossing through the mountains, and Don Juan stopped to tie his shoes. And when they started to move, suddenly in front of them there was the falling stones from the mountains and covered the whole road. And Castañeda calculated if he would not tie his shoes, they would be under the stones already. So he asked him, how would you say about it? What should we do? Did you know about it, or how? And he says, no, I didn't, but what is left for us is to perfectly tie our shoes, nothing else. So we have only one choice, to pedal. We will pedal perfectly forward. And by this pedaling forward, we will have to discover ourselves and to discover the whole beautiful, wonderful arrangement and presence of the divine here. And if that presence will grow through our pedaling, then I think it is meaningful. But it's a very beautiful image. Thank you, Elia, for pedaling on the river, which is already carrying us forward. It's a little funny. We are in a funny situation here. Of course, you can pedal against the stream or to the side.
Well, I think it says too that if we participate, right, if we paddle, as well as let the river carry us, then we'll get to our aim sooner. Otherwise, the river will just take us at its own time and speed. But with our participation, in nature, our consciousness, our awareness, we speed up the evolution, we speed up the process of getting there.
Beautiful.
Over time.
This is a nice interpretation of this. Yes, we can speed up the movement, our movement forward, our own in this case. Or we can be carried still by that river slowly to the goal. Over billions of years, we will arrive. Yeah. Great. Okay, if there are no more thoughts, then I will close for today. Oh, you, Siegfried, you want to say something?
I will try, but I write it, and it's difficult for me to find it. In the same time, I have you in the screen, but I try. It's from the essays of the Gita, the chapter, the significance of sacrifice, right? There is a quotation I can read. If you want, I can read the quotation, but I only want to offer my opinion.
Sure, please go ahead.
To understand that Prakriti is the executor of our works and Purusha is enjoyer, is the key to the liberation of the divine self. It is a gesture of displacement that will allow us to transcend without any limits, such as those caused by the construction of identities according to the accumulated karma. Perhaps this is the bridge to cross to reach Purushottama.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah, this is the bridge to cross and to arrive at this adhyajna within ourselves. That one who wanted to be many and who represents all our individual selves here within, and partakes of all the offerings, because he wanted to generate, as Mother says, additional delight. Which sounds ridiculous to us, but he had all the delight, but he wanted additional ananda, new circuit, as she says, of delight. He was looking for the delight in unity, not in identity. He had his delight in identity totally realized, but he wanted to experience himself in unity, through manyness, through many different relations, unexpected relations, infinite relations.
I have one reflection came from our Sanskrit class, and I want to share.
Please.
Like in a form of gratitude as well. Language is the tool that allows us to fragment the totality. It positions us in an imaginary place that separates us from the universe. And perhaps through language, we can return home again.
Beautiful. It's like a aphorism. Very nice. Yes, absolutely. There is no other way. Only through the mind we can come beyond the mind. Yeah? And the mind was the generator of language. Absolutely. It's Indra, the Lord of the Divine Mind, who became first grammarian, who cut everything into the categories and captivated the meaning and the word, the content and the signified and the signifier. He captured by separation through the categories. Now, back reassembling these categories and reuniting everything, we can arrive at the unity again. Wonderful. Thank you for this. This is beautiful to hear. Okay, then I close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hari Om.